Between Diablo 3's real money auction house and the mess that was Diablo Immortal, in recent times the Diablo franchise hasn't had the best track record in terms of monetization. I'm however happy to report that Diablo 4's monetization is unintrusive to the gameplay and shouldn't impact your enjoyment of the campaign. So if you're just looking to experience that, you're in for a real treat. But that doesn't mean the game isn't full of the typical monetization tactics we see in a lot of other AAA games nowadays. In terms of monetization, it's shaping up to be pretty well on par with Activision Blizzard's other games like Overwatch and Call of Duty, which could be a good thing or a bad thing depending on how you look at it. Diablo 4 is a huge step up from Immortal, and if you were worried about it being a mess full of microtransactions and pay-to-win gameplay, you're in the clear. But on the other hand, I think Diablo 4 is getting a pass on a lot of shitty practices just because it's not Diablo Immortal. It still has its own issues, and I personally think that just because it's miles better than Immortal, it doesn't mean that it should get a pass on the other tactics it's using to make an extra buck. Your first taste of the monetization will be before you even play the game, where you'll have to pick one of 3 versions of the game, ranging from $70 to $100. The premium versions come with a few extra cosmetics and the Season 1 Battle Pass. Here, they're just trying to get you to prepay for the Battle Pass before you even play the game, by buttering you up with a few cosmetics, which sucks, but it's nothing out of the ordinary. For me, the worst part of the premium editions is the 4-day early access. You actually see a lot of games doing this nowadays, and it just plain sucks. There's no real limit to how many people can buy the deluxe editions, meaning that there's no real limit to the amount of people that can access the game early. So if you think about it in another way, it's like the game launches on a Monday, but if you don't buy the deluxe edition, you have to wait 4 extra days till Friday to play the game. There isn't really any early access here, it's a completely fabricated waiting period to try to upsell people to the deluxe edition of the game. Now, people are gonna say just wait, it's not a big deal. But in doing that, they fail to see that the only thing this does is benefit a multi-billion-dollar company by allowing them to punish people for not giving them extra money. Once you're in game, you'll find the shop, that, to the game's credit, isn't in your face all the time and is only for cosmetics, which again is great. But for me, there's 2 big issues with it. First is that Diablo 4 is a full price game we already paid at least $70 for, and opening a shop full of cosmetics for sale on day 1 makes it hard to not feel like they just pulled armor sets out of the base game to sell separately, and just feels out of place in the game. Even COD waits till at least the first season to start flooding the in-game shop with skins. And for games like COD and Overwatch, what makes the in-game shop feel more fair is that all the additional gameplay content in those games is provided for free. Now, to our knowledge, with each seasonal update, Blizzard's going to be adding more content than any Diablo game ever before. So once the season starts to be released, the shop may be more warranted, but for now it feels pretty bad. My other big issue with the shop is the prices. Skins in general are pricey to begin with in games like League of Legends and Fortnite that sell them for $10 to $15 on average. At that price point, most people would say they're pretty expensive, but the games are free, so it feels a little more fair. In Diablo, the skins are almost all sold for upwards of $20, and on top of that are lower quality than what you'd get in a game like League, where the skins change up your character's animations and abilities. These price points are just too much for a full price retail game. Buying 3 skins in Diablo 4 will run you the cost of the game, and getting just 5 skins, one for each of the playable classes, will run you more than the deluxe editions of the game. And of course, you can't just buy the skins directly. Instead, you have to buy the in-game currency in bundles that make it so you end up spending more than the price of the skin you want. Now, to the game's credit, there is plenty of gear you can get in-game that can compare to the quality of the shop skins. So the skin shop can be seen as optional, but in my mind is still ridiculous. As of recording, the first season hasn't started, but we have details on what the Battle Pass will look like provided by the developer. And based on what we know so far, it'll mostly consist of cosmetic items. The impact of the Battle Pass is going to depend on what seasonal content's released and how much endgame progression is tied to the pass. For instance, if the Battle Pass takes over the progression in the game, it could ruin the experience. Like how in Overwatch, the only progression system is the pass. But if it's a side activity that works in tandem with the rest of the game, it could be a nice addition. My worry is that when you look at Activision Blizzard's other games, you see a trend in the Battle Pass being shoved in your face all the time, and gameplay content being tied to it to force you to engage with it. Like how new heroes in Overwatch and new guns in COD are only unlockable by progressing the Battle Pass. Even though they're part of the free track, they promote engaging with it and make it feel like you're missing out if you don't unlock the premium pass. I wouldn't be surprised if some gameplay content was added to Diablo 4's Battle Pass down the road, like a new class, to be in line with what we're seeing in Overwatch and Call of Duty's Battle Passes. The last thing we know for sure is that on top of the base game, shop, and Battle Passes, Diablo 4 is going to have paid expansions that will continue the story just like in Diablo 2 and 3. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it does feel like they may start to overload the game with monetization. The deal that most of us have agreed to with these types of games is that you can include the skin shop and battle passes, but you have to give us the gameplay content for free. And in this case, they aren't doing that. On the other hand, if you only want to play the campaign and don't want to be playing the seasonal content, this may be best, where you can buy the base game and the expansions and try your best to ignore the other monetization, having it work like the previous Diablo installments. We'll have to wait and see how this shakes out in the coming months. One final thing to watch out for is that I'm sure they're not done adding monetization into the game, even if it's just small tactics that could dilute the experience. For example, I can almost guarantee that they'll eventually have a free bundle in the shop that has a banner telling you it's free over the shop tab. This is a lure to the shop to get you to start looking around and give you the rush of unlocking new items. And I know it's going to be in the game because it's in almost every other Activision Blizzard game already, and I'm almost certain there'll be more things like this added to Diablo 4. End of the day, Diablo 4 is a great game, and as of making this video, the monetization isn't overwhelming. There's the typical AAA schlock thrown in there, but hopefully they can keep it to a minimum in the coming updates. Thanks for watching, and if you're not already, please consider subscribing.